Ladies and gentlemen, what is up? Welcome back to Just a Guy on My Lunch Break. It is Friday for me. Yes. Big, huge, massive UFC fight card this weekend. I would love to just sit and talk about that. I'm so freaking pumped. But that's not what we're here for. And I don't have a large UFC or MMA audience. Although I know there's a couple of people. There's a couple of people out there out of the 800 and something who love MMA. Maybe I'll give my main event prediction or something before we get off here. But first, I want to talk a little bit about Kratom. And the first thing I'm going to talk about regarding Kratom is being careful to not switch strains mid-taper, okay? If you've decided that the amount of Kratom you're taking is too much and you're wanting to taper or come off of it, try to make sure that you are maintaining not only the same method of ingestion and delivery, which means if you're doing capsules or if you're doing powder and you're weighing your powder, whatever it is, try to keep that the same. And the second thing is, heaven forbid, don't switch strains, as I have done recently. And I want to talk a little bit about that, how that may have affected me. And it also, beckons a little more discussion on the clonidine that we've been speaking about, not to be confused with the blood pressure medication clonidine, but clonidine. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about that, and then maybe I'll touch on the main event of the UFC, and then I'm gone. All right. And by the way, it's my last Friday at my current place of employment. The word's starting to get out. Everybody's starting to hear that I'm leaving, so everybody's coming up. Hey, where you going? Congratulations, that's awesome, blah, 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 just asking questions and stuff like that. And word is, out in the ethosphere, they're going to do some sort of little going away party for them. Like, no. I'm telling you, believe it or not, even though I have a YouTube channel, you're talking about a person who used to do music. I've performed on stages in front of not hundreds, but actually thousands of people before. I don't mean to make myself sound so like Big Willie or anything, but in my 20s and early 30s, I did a fair amount of performing and stuff like that. So, and I run a YouTube channel with over 800 subscribers. So you have to think I'm the type of guy that wouldn't mind being the center of attention. But when it's in a small group like that and it's for something really personal, like I'm leaving a place that I've been working for a while, and this company was there for me when my son was born, through the surprise birth of my son River, and they were really, really sweet to myself and my wife. We got a lot of gifts from them, including expensive gifts like a car seat. The owner and his wife actually bought us a car, one of the car seats that we still use to this day. And those things aren't cheap. So it's one of those where I know everybody understands a 30% salary increase, especially this day and age. It's just a no-brainer. It's something I had to do, right? And they know that. They understand that. But it's nothing at all to do with these people that I work for and the people that work within the company on a personal level. It's not anything personal. It's all business, because I like all of them and I appreciate all of them. And what I don't like is for people to make over me. I'm like, and one of my co-employees that I work really closely with said the other day, are we gonna have like a little get together, some food or something? And I was like, nah, I don't want anybody making over me. And she was like, you don't want some food or something like that? And I realized as she was saying it, she's already talked to somebody about doing some food for me, and she's trying to push back a little bit because I'm sitting here saying, no, don't do that. I don't want anybody making over me, because I'll be embarrassed, and then I'm going to be put on the spot to kind of have to make a little speech. I really appreciate the opportunity. You guys have really learned a lot here, and all of those things are true. I'm just not one to be put on the spot in front of a very small group of people where they're all looking right at me, hanging on every word that I say. And it's just, and it's a little awkward because the company has done a lot for me. I really appreciate them, but now I'm leaving, So that's never fun. But I realized that, I think they're probably going to end up doing something. Maybe they won't. Hopefully they won't. Hopefully she was just asking the question. But nonetheless, people in my work are starting to get the drift, okay? So, on the topic of Kratom, when I first started this taper about a month and a half ago, I had one of my listeners to reach out and, told me about this company that was really good where you could order your Kratom offline. And it was lab tested. They knew what the percentage of the metrogeny alkaloid in the Kratom was. So, you're looking at some good quality sort of stuff. And I gave them a run for a couple of weeks and ordered from them. The Kratom was good. I loved the Kratom. He was absolutely right. Very good quality. Felt like it was cleaner. Felt like you weren't taking in, a lot of, additives. It felt like it's, they do a lot of lab testing to a point where you can go online and actually see the type of test that they run. And you could feel that. You could feel the kind of cleaner sort of buzz that it gave you. And I imagine that the metrogeny alkaloid, the levels of it were probably higher than they are in some of this, bulk Kratom that you might buy in one of your local head shops or whatever. For me, I did it for a couple of weeks and I was like, I like better just being able to drop into the head shop. It's literally right off of the highway on my way home. My wife and I go grocery shopping over that way every weekend. We're literally within a stone's throw of this place multiple times in a couple of week period, right? So for me, it's just a thing of convenience. I was like, well, this is what I used to take, just like green Borneo powder that I get from my local head shop. It was good. When I started using this Super Speciosa, which was an online vendor, I used them for a couple of weeks, got a couple of bags with them, but I just wasn't crazy about the ordering and then having to pay for shipping. Well, I paid, $8 for shipping when I'm literally a stone's throw away from a place where I can just stop, walk in, and grab something. You know what I mean? And then not only that, but you have to, when you're taking something like Kratom and you have to contend with the possibility of withdrawal if you're dependent upon it, right? You can't be in a situation where you just run yourself out of it, right? Or you're going through withdrawal. We all know this. All of us who are regular Kratom users and are dependent on it, we know this, right? You can't just run yourself out of Kratom. And when you're ordering it online, sometimes you're facing that. You have to, they don't always get it there. It's like a 3 to 5 business day sort of thing. And sometimes it's on the tail end of that, on the 5-day mark. Sometimes it might come a little earlier. So then when you do order it, you're waiting 3 to 5 days to get it. Why wait 3 to 5 days to get it when you can just go, oh, look, I'm almost out. When I come home tomorrow, I'm going to pull right off the road and stop by this head shop and just get what I usually get. So I did that a couple of days ago, and yesterday was my first day on 10 grams. But right around that time, the day before yesterday, I took the last of what was left of my Super Speciosa Kratom. Okay? So then yesterday when I went to do the 10 grams, felt okay. Didn't really have a lot of trouble with that. I did use a little bit of the canolidine at night. My sleep was okay, and I was actually shocked that I'm like, okay, 10 grams, not too bad. I'm pretty good. Didn't have a whole lot of trouble with it. Well, then the 48-hour mark came. Now, I know a lot of you guys have probably heard a lot of times the second day on a new dose, whether you've completely come off of it and the withdrawals are just worse on the second day, or if you've knocked down a dose, and let's say you were taking 12 grams and then you go down and you're taking 11 grams. Well, a lot of times your second day, that 48-hour mark on the 11 grams is going to be worse for you than is the first 24 hours, right? And a lot of that is your body has cycled through, filtered through the excess amount of Kratom. And now on the second day, that's a more accurate depiction of what your body newly looks like on 11 grams. You see what I'm saying? Whereas the first night, you still got some of the 12 grams and 13 grams from successive days before because you've been using it a while. You still have some of that kind of built up in your system, and it takes time for your body to cycle through the excess, right? And that's where you get this 24-hour, 48-hour thing where people say a lot of times the second day is actually the day that they experience like the more withdrawals at night, the tougher sleep, you know, the lower energy during the day, that stuff like that. That's pretty much a well-documented thing, right? So I think it was a little bit that it was the second day, the 48-hour mark, but I think absolutely some of it was the fact that I switched strains. Today's Friday. It was Wednesday that I officially ran out of the online vendor, the Super Speciosa Kratom. And then Thursday morning on through Thursday was when I began to take the Green Borneo, the Kratom that I would just typically pick up at my head shop, right? Now, I don't think the quality to that is bad, but I don't think the quality of the Green Borneo in terms of its concentration of metrogenine alkaloid, which is the alkaloid in Kratom that actually gives you the buzz, gives you the euphoria, gives you the energy, right? I don't think the concentration of that is as high in the Green Borneo that I get from the head shop as it was from the online vendor, Super Speciosa, right? So 48-hour mark, I switched strains where it has less metrogenine. So last night, I was a little uncomfortable last night, even with having taken the canolidine. Now, I'll still give a hit to the canolidine. The canolidine, I'll still recommend that. It's a little bit expensive, but the canolidine does absolutely help you push through the withdrawals. It does help to dampen the withdrawals. It is natural. It is from the bark of the pinwheel flower. It is not addictive. It does not act on your the historical typical opiate receptors that an opiate acts on. It only acts on your scavenger opiate receptor. So this is not addictive, okay? The canolidine. It's not an addictive substance. So I don't want anyone to think that I'm, promoting, get off of this and then get off this addictive substance by taking this addictive substance. That's not what I'm doing. But the canolidine does help, and I've had someone else who's a fan of the channel and become a friend of mine to give his anecdotals on it too. And he said that it absolutely helps. In fact, he's taking it a couple of times a day. He's taking it once during the day, and then he's also taking it at night to help him sleep. So the canolidine does help, but the canolidine is not a one-all fix-all. I don't know that there is any one-all fix-all unless you're doing something like Subutex, Suboxone, or something like that, which, as you know, if you stay on those for any extended period of time, you're remaining dependent because it still is completely attaching and binding to those opiate receptors in your brain. So technically, you're still staying dependent upon the opiates, unless you wean yourself off of the Suboxone under medical supervision in a very quick amount of time, right? So there is like a delicate balance there where they can wean you off of the Suboxone relatively quickly, and then you can, for the most part, just skip the physical withdrawals, right? But this channel is more about people who, look, I ain't going to the doctor. I ain't going to the doctor for this shit. I got myself into it. I can get myself out of it as long as it's not, as long as there's not some sort of physical health danger, which with some harder opiates, don't get me wrong, there are. I've never been addicted to something like fentanyl or heroin or anything like that. But I know with the harder ones like that, there can actually be some physical dangers, including possibility of death when withdrawing from something like that. You're looking at possible seizures and just, other sorts of things. Kratom, I mean, they haven't studied it a lot, but I've cold turkeyed from it, several times, including a cold turkey from a Percocet withdrawal, probably 20 years ago for me. And I never had any sort of issues that, that I would have had to go to the doctor or the hospital for. You just feel effing sick. You're dope sick. It's kind of like saying you're going to go to the doctor for getting, a stomach virus or something. No, you're not. They can't do anything. I mean, they can give you some things to kind of help dampen the symptoms, but it just has to work its way out. It just has to. The only thing that's going to fix it is time, and your time encompasses your body's ability to readjust and reacclimate to not having. You've become dependent. You've become physically dependent. So now you have to give your body time to reacclimate to not having that substance, right? And time is the only thing that fixes it. It takes your body time to readjust. So the quinolidine is not a one-all fix-all, but it definitely suppresses it. Now, last night, I struggled. Now, I wouldn't say that I was, point being, the green Borneo, all Kratom is not created equal. That's the point I'm getting at. 10 grams of the Super Speciosa is obviously not equal to 10 grams of the green Borneo that I'm taking, right? So just be careful with that, because if not, you'll end up in a situation like I was last night. Now, what I'm going to do about it is just suck it up. You know, it wasn't so bad that I was just jumping out of bed over it. It was one of those where I was waking up a lot when I was sleeping. It was kind of like on pins and needles type sleeping. I was having some kind of discomfort in my chest. Like, I could tell those withdrawals were trying to creep up, but I could also tell that the quinolidine was working to kind of suppress them, But like I said, my sleep was trash. Didn't sleep that well. Definitely had some of the discomforts that are synonymous with, the withdrawals, as unfortunately I'm very familiar with what those feelings are. That's what I was feeling, just not as bad. And I know that just has to do with the fact that I completely switched my strain and my vendor right in the middle of my taper. Don't do that if you can help it. Now, I'm not going to do anything about it other than just give it some time. I'm going to suffer through it again tonight, suffer through it again, the next night if I need to. Hopefully tonight will be a little better, okay? Since I'm on my third night of the 10 grams. So hopefully tonight will be a little better. But there's nothing I'm really going to do about it. I'm going to continue to get the Kratom that's most convenient for me. And if I'm coming down off of it anyway, it's like, what's the point in going back on and ordering something online when I'm inside of 10 grams at this point anyway, and I'm looking to continue to chop that down here in the near future, okay? So, quinolidine's not an end-all, fix-all, but it is something that can really help to dampen and to damper down those withdrawals at night, okay? I didn't really, when I had it, when I first got it, I did try to take it during the day once or twice. I was not a huge fan of taking it during the day. For me, it kind of gave me almost like a Xanax-y sort of feel. Like I was just like, kind of like a zombie, just no emotion really, no feeling, no energy. It kind of brought me down a couple of notches. So I was like, okay, yeah, this is something I'm going to use at night, because during the day, I'm a person that's more attracted to that energy feeling, the slight euphoria maybe, but I like the energy, so I can get up and do this, get up and do that. It kind of motivates me, right? And at least for me on that day, that's not the experience I have with quinolidine. It did the opposite. It kind of made me a little tired or whatever. But when you're in bed at night and all you want to do is sleep anyway, who gives a shit, right? You want to be tired. So I started using it specifically at night, the quinolidine, and that definitely has helped. It's helped me to be more rapid with my taper. I was taking 13, 14 grams. I was down to 13, 14 grams, and I chopped it down overnight to 11 grams. So I dropped a good 2-3 grams in one night, and I never really had any problems. Okay? So with that said, that lets you know that the quinolidine, there's something on that. There's something about that does help you have more of those opiate peptides in a natural way, out in your brain, out in your blood, out in your synapses, so the withdrawals aren't quite as intense. Not going to take it away completely, but it's not going to be as intense. I had someone ask me a while back to tell my story about when I came off of Adderall. So I took something called Vyvanse. The first time I ever came off of Percocet, I was only off Percocet for a few days, and obviously, I was experiencing some depression, low mood, stuff like that, and this is the only time that I had ever actually been in a recovery, program, right? And the doctor there prescribed me Vyvanse. Vyvanse worked really well, and that's one of those things that really gives you that dopamine hit. Later on, I didn't like the time release thing of it. And not only that, but Vyvanse was very expensive at that time. I think it was something where my insurance didn't cover it because it was so freaking expensive. But they did cover it, but I think they only covered it at a small amount. Even with my insurance, the bottle of that shit was like 60 something bucks. I was like, damn, and back then I wasn't making a ton of money. So it was like, I'm not making a ton now, but I'm making more now than I was then. And 60 something bucks for a prescription was like, what? Hell no, give me some Adderall or some Ritalin. I think I tried Ritalin one time, wasn't a fan of that, and so they put me on Adderall. And I was on Adderall for probably 4 or 5 years. I will say Adderall is about the only thing that I would take that just kind of made me forget about opiates. Didn't care about opiates when I was on Adderall, because for me, it was more so the energy and the focus that I was after, and obviously Adderall basically being a dumbed down version of crystal meth. I hope this video doesn't get yanked because I'm talking about all these illicit drugs in there, but I don't care. But it's basically like a dumbed down version of crystal meth, and I mean, obviously it's not as strong and not as impactful, but after taking it a while, I could definitely tell, like, I would have trouble sleeping. I would have times where I was irritable. There were times, especially when I was abusing it, because, well, when you're an addict, that's what you do, right? You abuse it. You're supposed to take 3 a day. I went through a period of time where I was snorting, taking 4 or 5 a day, snorting a couple of them, especially when I was recording music. Oh, man. There were times where I stayed up for 2 or 3 days just mixing and engineering music. And it wasn't a good situation. At that time, my brother, he wouldn't care if I said this, but he was on it too at the time. We were kind of in recording projects together, so we were just burning that midnight oil and that daytime oil, getting this music, doing this music. And there were definitely times where I was up all night snorting them, crushing them up, just no bueno, son. No bueno. Now, I did towards the end, the last year or two on the Adderall, I kind of had a self-check moment. My brother and I both did. We kind of had a heart-to-heart, like, dude, the way we've been doing this shit ain't cool, bro. And we both actually changed the way we use it. The last year or two that I used Adderall, I didn't really abuse it at all. I would only take 3 a day like I was supposed to. It was always ingesting it. I never snorted it again about that last year I had it. But nonetheless, I started noticing, of course, I went for a while and I smoked cigarettes too and drank Monsters all the time. So this is a partial contributing factor, but I noticed I started having a lot of trouble with my teeth. My gums were receding really bad. I was starting to have issues with my teeth. And I know that crystal meth is known for fucking up your teeth, right? And, I started having issues there, and I was like, that shit really made me, because I've always had a nice smile, and my parents spent a couple $1,000s on braces for me, like back in the 1990s, which, a couple $1,000s is a lot in the 1990s. So, this smile cost me some money, cost my parents some money. So when my teeth started going bad after that, taking that Adderall for several years, I was like, damn, bro, damn, so I just had several reasons that I just wanted to stop. I wasn't eating, a lot, because it suppresses your appetite. So ultimately, I literally, Adderall is one of the things I just quit cold turkey. I would have to call my doctor, a neurologist that was prescribing it to me. I have to call him every month. I would have to drive there, sign where I took the prescription. They would hand me this prescription because they couldn't call it in because it's a schedule 4 or not narcotic, but it's a schedule 4 medication. So I would have to physically drive there, which was about 30 minutes from where I live. So that part of it was annoying enough. I had to sign for it. Then I'd have to take it to the pharmacy. Then I have to get it filled. And, just a big mess, not to mention what it was doing to my teeth, causing me not to sleep at night, causing me not to eat healthy, just all these things, right? And so I just completely stopped it cold turkey. And I planned it for a time where my wife and I were going to be out of town in the mountains for 4 days. And I remember 2 days before we went to the mountains, we were like, damn, it's going to be like tsunami the whole time we're there, meaning rain the whole time we were there. And I'm not talking about, oh, kind of overcasty, then rains a little bit. Like, no, it rained the whole effing time that we were there. And it was like a good 4-day period. So we were in this beautiful cabin in Murphy, North Carolina, which is the mountains of North Carolina. We're in this beautiful cabin. Got this beautiful hot tub sitting out there in the woods on top of a mountain and stuff. And it freaking poured rain. I'm talking, you know how the old timers say, raining cats and dogs out there. It did that. The cats and dogs thing. It did that the whole time we were there. And I was coming off of Adderall. So that was probably one of the least favorite vacations of my life, I would say. The biggest thing I saw was just the mood. You know, with coming off of something like Adderall, there wasn't a whole lot of physical, my bowels weren't bad. I was more hungry because the stimulant wasn't there. More than that, just had really low energy because it gives you that dopamine hit, to energy where you get up and do this and do that, or you focus on this and focus on that. I didn't have none of that. Very low mood, lots of anhedonia, just kind of feeling like, oh, damn, blah. Luckily, I was on vacation, just kind of chilled. We just kind of hung around in the living room, ate a little bit. I did have a little bit of alcohol, just so I'm going to have a little bit of freaking fun while I'm here. But I was just depressed and just low mood and not really wanting to do much. And I went through that for probably about a good week, probably a good 6-7 days. And then eventually on into the second week, it started to let up a little bit. Started to feel a little better. Started noticing some energy coming back, stuff like that. But yeah, that's my experience with Adderall. This weekend, Sean O'Malley is going to beat Chito Vera. Chito's the only person he's ever lost to. I'm one of those people that, I'm not saying that it was a fluke. He definitely beat him, but I think if they fought 100 times, 95 times out of 100, I feel like Sean O'Malley would win a decision. I just feel like he's more skilled than Chito. Chito's a tough motherfucker. Don't get me wrong. But I just think Sean O'Malley's going to get it done. Plus, I was at the event in Boston when he actually won his title. So that's something that my son and I both have claim to. We were there live. We saw him.